My guest today is Michelle Villalobos. And Michelle is quite a young lady. She was named by the Miami Herald as one of Miami's top 20 under 40 in 2011. And then in 2013, she won the Miami Herald Business Plan Challenge for co-founding the personal branding self-study program, Make Them Bake. And the media regularly brings Michelle in to give advice about how anyone, especially women, can brand themselves to get ahead in business. And in January of 2014, she was named number 5 on Evan Carmichael's top 100 small business experts to follow on Twitter. Well, Michelle, that's quite a little resume.
Thank you.
So glad to have you with us. Of course, I know Michelle. I've been around Michelle for many, many years, and she's a fabulous, fabulous person. But let's tell other people, how did you get started in your business?
Well, I'd like to say that I had a beautiful, planned out strategy for when I launched my business. But quite honestly, I started my business from a place of frustration and misalignment. I had been building my career for many years. I graduated from college, and from the moment I graduated, and really from well before that, I had no idea what my gifts were. I had no idea what I really wanted to do, what I was passionate about. And so, I built this this career for myself and gotten myself to a pretty nice place in my career. I was the publisher of a fashion magazine down in South Florida. And I was miserable. I couldn't get out of bed in the mornings. I was, really trying to like drown my sorrows in partying and alcohol. I hadn't found my purpose. I hadn't found my passion. And so at one point I just got so frustrated that I said, I'm done. I don't want to have any more bosses. I don't want to do this work anymore. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. And I didn't even think about it as being an entrepreneur. I just said, I want to be my own boss. And so I quit my job without any real plan. And I said to the world, well, now I'm a consultant. And now, I can help you with your sales and marketing, just like I've done for the last several years in my career. And of course, it was crickets. Nobody was interested in working with me because I hadn't positioned myself like that. I hadn't branded myself. I didn't have a clear business model. So, the first few years of my business were pretty much a horror show. And I stuck it out. And 10 years later, I turned 10 years old. My business turned 10 last month. And it's another story. I figured a few things out, and I've become much more self-aware and much more business savvy as well.
Well, it's interesting because most people would think of being the publisher of a magazine, especially, one that was fashion-oriented and lifestyle-oriented. That's a dream job. And you're saying, oh, no, I didn't like it at all. So
well, I'm glad you...
Yeah,
go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
What was the single most important thing you learned in those 10 years in business? Because I know you kind of metamorphed yourself into something completely different right now.
Totally. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, you're right. Like, and even to me, that being the publisher of that magazine to me was the pinnacle. That's what I'd been working for. And when I got there, I was a workaholic. It was a very, not a very supportive and loving environment. There was a lot of backstabbing, a lot of politics. And, at the end of the day, knowing who I am today, and I will answer your question, and looking back, I can see perfectly well how that magazine, for all however fun it was and lifestyle and fashion and all that, it just wasn't aligned with my deepest self. The core Michelle, the real me, wanted to make a positive impact in the world and wants to make a positive impact. And the magazine that I was putting out and that I was supporting, was more, just one more piece of commercialism and prescriptiveness for women. Every month we put out a new bikini clad model on the cover or some pop celebrity, and that's all, well and good. And I believe that I'm here to do something different and more more impactful and positively impactful, for women. So you're right. Like I have morphed myself quite a bit. And the one thing I learned, because that's what you asked, is to really, it's so important to have alignment and to have alignment with who we really are at the deepest level. And that's, there's a lot of elements to that. There's like the element of who we really are from a gifts and a strengths perspective, like aligning our work with what we do best. The second piece being alignment of our work with our lifestyle that we want to live. That's a whole piece. Alignment of our truth, of our work with our purpose on the planet. That's a really big piece. I call it the North Star alignment. Alignment of ourself with the business model that makes sense for us to deliver value to the world. For example, when I started my business, I delivered value to the world through execution of consulting projects. So I would come up with these great ideas like for events and marketing campaigns, and then I would have to actually project manage those ideas and the execution of all that. And I hated it. I hated the project management. I loved the ideation, but I hated the execution. So those are just, the one thing is alignment.
Well, that's true. I think, but so few people ever get to that point. That is the whole message here. Most people, they're kind of on a rote patrol,
Yes.
They go to school, they learn something, they start working in that job, and then that's it. They get stuck. They actually get stuck, and then they don't change. So you talk a lot about being purpose-driven, and I know that's important to you. Why is it so important for business owners to be purpose-driven?
Wow, that's a great question there. And there are a few kind of facets to my answer to that. Why is it so important? I think from a personal perspective, it's important because we need fuel. As an entrepreneur, it's so easy to get demotivated, discouraged, frustrated, exhausted, overwhelmed. And so having that North Star alignment, that alignment with our purpose, is fuel for action. When we have that kind of purpose drive, it can get us through the tough times. It can help us and support us through the hustle. And so that's, from a personal perspective, I think purpose is fuel. It also gives us a sense of fulfillment and connection to the world around us, to others. Whereas as being an entrepreneur, a lot of times can be a very lonely, disconnected type of endeavor. And so that can help us have connection. From a macro kind of perspective, I think the importance of being connected to our purpose is that, imagine a world filled with people connected to their purpose, and imagine a world filled with entrepreneurs connected to a higher purpose. When the purpose is not just, I'm going to make a whole bunch of money and do an IPO and make billions. When the purpose is, I'm going to make a contribution and an impact to others. I feel like entrepreneurship is the perfect vehicle for impact and change, because entrepreneurs are they're leaders, they're difference makers, they're change makers, they're disruptors. And so why not align that disruptive tendency with a tendency to also contribute? I feel like that the world would be a much, much better place if every entrepreneur had that as part of their DNA.
Well, that's true. And I guess that's why the ones we admire most are the ones who are making money, but doing great things like having a foundation or having a particular charity or a particular cause that they're working for. But how did your business model then impact your lifestyle, and the business that you've built today change that for your lifestyle and your day-to-day?
Yeah, for sure. So when I, there were many phases of my years. I mean, 10 years is a good chunk of time, and there have been multiple inflection points along the way. So one of the early inflection points was that I built my brand, and I really started focusing on aligning my messaging with a more authentic version, with an authentic version of me. And that took that was a process. That didn't happen overnight. I got more and more authentic, more and more real, and my brand grew and grew, and I got more and more opportunities, and all that was well and good. So at one point, about 7 years in, about 3 years ago, I'd gotten to the point where my business was quote unquote successful. I was generating a good amount of revenue. If you looked at my tax returns, you'd think, oh, Michelle's doing pretty well. But the reality was that my income was like a roller coaster. It was up and down, and it really depended on whether or not I got speaking or training or consulting business in that month or in that period. So, it was like feast or famine. And there were months, and there were 2 months actually in 2014 where I'd had a really spectacular personal disaster happen in my life. I broke off an engagement in a very spectacular way. And ultimately it affected me so deeply that I just, got depressed. And of course, I made no money in those 2 months. Like, I didn't pursue any new business. I didn't do the things that I usually did to drive the revenues. And my business dried up for 2 months. I had zero revenues. And I realized this is not a business. This is not a business. This is not even a job, because it's not even stable, right? And I got really depressed on top of the breakup with my, like the realization that it was not a business. And so I made a commitment that it was June to shift my business model. And so as of September, I took on a new approach, and I started doing this retreat to mastermind model that I still do today, and shifting that business model from a one-on-one model, a project-based model, a consulting type of model where I'd write proposals, get them accepted. I shifted to a much more streamlined model that had a monthly recurring revenue component on the back end. And that was a game changer for me. I mean, first of all, my revenue shot up because I got really clear about what I was selling, and only what I was selling. That's it. I wasn't, creating custom programs. I wasn't saying, oh, well, what do you need? Let me see if I can help you. Instead, I was like, this is the way I work. First, you do this foundational program. And then from there, if things go well and we like working together, then you can come into this 1-year program that I have. And that's it. And that's all I did. And my revenues more than tripled that year. And my lifestyle turned around. Like, I started taking care of myself more because I now had predictability built into the business, which I'd never had before.
Wow, that's quite a turnaround. And I know you also did a residential move as well, didn't you?
Yes, that was part of that. So as part of that business model shift so that happened in September that I started the shift, November when I fully implemented it. And at that point in November, I got this crazy idea that I wanted to travel around the country for the year. That part of me just needed to escape from Miami after having been there for 15 years and after having that breakup and having everybody know about what had gone down. I just felt the need to escape, and for better or for worse, right? That instinct to get to go. And so I took this road trip the following February, 2015, and I was supposed to go all the way around the country over the course of a year. And about 9 months in, I was in Colorado, had been in Colorado. I hadn't left Colorado for 3 months. And I said, you know what? I just want to stay here. I love it here in the mountains. So I got a place. And now I divide my time, really. I haven't fully moved out here. That's where I am now. But I still have my business is still pretty much based in Miami. But, I have that kind of freedom now where I go from Miami to Colorado, and I'm on the road quite a bit. And I really like it. It works for me. And that's kind of my whole point with alignment, lifestyle alignment, is, does your business model afford you the freedom to live your life the way you want to live it, rather than feeling trapped or stuck because of work? And that's how I'd felt for 15 years, that I was in Miami and I had to stay in Miami to build my career and then later build business. And now I know I can build my business from, well, anywhere in the United States. Next step is to go beyond that. We'll see.
Well, that's interesting because, as you know, I live in 3 places. I live in Miami, I live in San Diego, and I live in Palm Springs. So I concur with, being able to do whatever you want, wherever you want. It makes a big, big deal. But you also, you say that women entrepreneurs often have a difficult time with sales.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, there are a few reasons that I've witnessed this, I've observed it, I've thought about it, I've studied it, and I think it boils down to a handful of things. And the first being, in especially with purpose-driven women, right? This desire to serve and this belief that service equals sacrifice, and that in order to truly be a good person and give, it has to hurt, or it has to take from you somehow. And I think this in my life, I think kind of goes back to, a very Catholic upbringing. This idea of sacrifice is very exalted, right? And so there's that sacrifice equals service belief. And the second, and kind of a corollary to that is this desire to just give, give, give. And so and there's this tendency to say, oh, you take it, or you have this, or I'll forego so that you can have this, like, win-lose sort of mentality. The second reason, I think, is because we have a fear, and this is my story, and I've seen this play out with some of my clients too, a fear of being judged, a fear of being disliked, or a fear of offending people, right? So ultimately a fear of rejection is what it boils down to. And I remember multiple times, before, and even still to some degree to this day, before going on stage at my own event, or before, going in front of a group of my clients and letting them know about an offer, letting them know about a program I've got, there's a definite fear, and there's this trepidation of, like, they're not going to like me anymore. I've been giving them value, I've been supporting them and helping them, but the minute I offer something, now I'm a salesperson, or now I'm in sales mode. And there's, like, that belief that there's a difference, right? And so part of the cure for that is really getting people, and personally understanding that sales is service, and that unless we are selling, then we're not being able to serve the people that we were meant to serve. And so if we believe wholeheartedly in our purpose, and if we've aligned our business with that purpose, and if we've created programs and offerings that deliver value to that, to your target audience, and to the purpose, then there's no distinction between selling and service, because selling is simply an exchange of energy. It's an exchange of value. And it needs to happen in order for the person to be totally bought in and committed to what they're going to be doing. People, unless they have skin in the game, unless they invest, they don't really, they're not as committed. They don't care as much, generally speaking, right? There's always exceptions. And so what I found is, in my work, when someone buys a program, it's a signal of their commitment. It's a token of their commitment. It's an energy exchange, and it's a necessary part of the commitment process in order for them to get the results they need to get.
Wow, fantastic. That's great. Well, first of all, let's let people know how to get in touch with you. I mean, tell them a little bit about your business and the best way to reach you.
Sure. Okay, so what we do now is we've got a pretty simple business model these days. And maybe I'll answer your question at the same time as I deliver some value and help people sort of envision a model that might be interesting for them. What we do is I go around and I do half-day workshops at a very low price point, to just kind of a top of the funnel, get people in the door and see if we're a fit, so they can get a sense of who I am. And so we're doing those. We're just started doing those recently in Miami. I've got one coming up actually soon. And we're going to be doing those a few times a year, maybe even monthly, and moving them around the country. So that's like an easy way to kind of get a sense of, oh, is Michelle, a good fit for me? And does she do what I need? On top of that, we also do, so then from there, really most people, or pretty much everybody, starts with one of three things. And they're very similar. They're all 3-day immersion events. The first is called Awaken Your Inner Superstar, and that's an immersion event for developing a brand and a business model and a mindset for creating something that's purpose-driven, that's aligned with your business, aligned with the lifestyle you want, aligned with your strengths and gifts. And that's kind of a foundational, not really a beginner program. It's more of a foundational program, meaning that people who don't know what they want can come in there, but people who have an existing business can refine their business there. Then we do something called Superstar Speaker Academy, which teaches people how to use speaking as a business strategy, both as marketing and also as a lead generator for back-end programs. That's also a 3-day immersion. And then we do one called the Women's Success Summit, which is a larger 3-day event as well. And then from there, pretty much all roads lead to one place right now, and then in September we'll have a second place, and all the roads lead to our inner circle. And my inner circle is the year-long program where we support people in creating that business and implementing. We have coaching and accountability and events and support and calls and all sorts of good stuff. And then the second thing that we're adding in September is now a monthly membership program, which will be totally virtual. All of our content and everything will be delivered through there from now on, starting in September. And that's a much more affordable program that's virtual, so you can do it from anywhere in the world. And so if anybody's interested in that stuff, you can go to my website right now. My website is getting relaunched in about a week. I'm really excited because it's not very aligned at this point with my true brand. But you can just Google my name, Michelle Villalobos. You can misspell it, and Google will still find me. The gringos say Michelle Villalobos.
You better tell them how to spell it, Michelle.
Yeah, I will. Okay, good idea. Villalobos is V as in Victor, ILLALO, B as in boy, OS as in Sam. Villalobos, which means town of wolves in Spanish, which is kind of a cool name.
I was going to say Lobos. I know. Yes,
that's right.
Town of wolves. Right.
And we also have we have all sorts of good free stuff. If you go to the website, you can learn a lot without ever spending a dime.
That's wonderful. Well, I'll tell you, Michelle is really a true treasure. I mean, she's someone who can help you, who can get you on the right path, and who can really, start you in the direction you want, but also, I think, help you discover, are you on the right path? That's the key to everything. Are you on the right path? I mean, you might have been caught up in everything you've been doing or everything you see other people doing, and you say, oh, I want to do that. But the thing that both Michelle and I know, and I think this is so important, is nothing is easy. Nothing is easy. Everything takes work. Everything takes patience. Everything takes money. I mean, it does take a little bit of everything to get you where you want to go. So go to Michelle. And what will your new website be? Because by the time this airs,
oh, good,
you'll have it.
Yes, so it's michellevillalobos.com. And you'll be able to get to everything from there. Yes.
Fantastic. That's great. That is absolutely great. So if I guess the most important thing that I want to say is I personally know Michelle for probably most of those 10 years. Yeah. And I have seen the transformation. I have seen her growth. I have seen her struggles, and I have seen her many, many successes. Now, understand, and this is what I think is a key, is here is a woman who became one of the top 20 under 40. She had her business plan endorsed by the Miami Herald, right. And she changed. She wasn't happy, and she changed it, and she's being successful now. So that's what it's all about. It's finding your direction and finding your true path. So, Michelle, I really want to thank you for being with us today, because I think it really shows everybody just how far you can come when your direction is where it needs to be. So I want to really thank you for today and wish you the best, and enjoy Colorado and Miami, just like I love all my places where I am. And I think that's the key. So
you're my hero. Gayle. I'm at number 3 in the next few years, and that's somewhere in California, just so you know. So I look up to you, I admire you, and I so appreciate this conversation. It was really good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.